The air was thick with the scent of cut grass and honeysuckle, the kind of summer evening in Willow Creek that made you want to sit on the porch with a cold beer and let the world hum by. But not tonight. Tonight, the quiet was shattered by Karen's voice, sharp as a razor, slicing through the dusk. "You can't just slam that barn door like you own the whole damn neighborhood," she shrieked from her pristine lawn across the street, her arms flailing like a windmill in a storm. My wife, Lena, froze mid-step, her hand still on the weathered handle of our old red barn. The door had creaked shut with a thud, nothing unusual, but to Karen, it was a declaration of war. I leaned against the porch railing, my jaw tight, the beer bottle sweating in my hand. Karen, HOA president, self-appointed queen of Willow Creek, had been gunning for us since we moved in 6 months ago. Our barn, a rickety relic from the 1800s, didn't fit her vision of suburban perfection. Neither did Lena's wildflower garden or my pickup truck parked in the driveway. "It's a safety hazard," Karen had bellowed at the last homeowners association meeting, her manicured nails stabbing the air. "That barn's an eyesore, and you're lowering property values." Lena had just smiled, her calm like a lake before a storm, and said, "It's our home, Karen. Live with it." Now, Karen was marching across the street, her phone already to her ear, her voice a venomous hiss. "Yes, officer, I need someone here now. They're causing a disturbance." Lena turned to me, her brown eyes flashing with a mix of amusement and exasperation. "She's calling the cops over a barn door," she whispered, her breath catching in a half laugh, half sigh. I shrugged, but my stomach twisted. Karen wasn't just a nuisance, she was a bulldog with a grudge, and she'd been waiting for an excuse to sink her teeth in. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple, and the neighborhood held its breath. Kids on bikes slowed down, their sneakers scraping the pavement. Old Mr. Hensley, watering his roses next door, muttered something about "that woman" and shook his head. The air felt heavy, like the moment before thunder cracks. Lena leaned against the barn, her arms crossed, her ponytail swaying slightly in the breeze. "Let her come," she said, her voice low but steady. "I'm done playing nice." Minutes later, the wail of sirens cut through the evening. 2 sheriff's deputies pulled up in a cruiser, their lights flashing red and blue, casting eerie shadows across Karen's perfectly trimmed hedges. She stood on her lawn, triumphant, her arms folded like she'd just won a war. The deputies, both young, one with a buzz cut and the other with a mustache that looked like it belonged in a 70s cop show, stepped out, their boots crunching on the gravel. "Evening, ma'am," Buzzcut said, tipping his hat to Karen. "What's the issue here?" Karen launched into her tirade, her voice climbing higher with every word. "These people," she spat, pointing at Lena, "are a menace. Slamming doors, disturbing the peace, disrespecting the homeowners association rules. I want them cited, arrested, something. This neighborhood deserves better." The deputies exchanged a glance, the kind that said they'd dealt with Karens before. Mustache guy scribbled something in a notepad, his face unreadable. Lena stepped forward, her boots kicking up dust from the driveway. "Officer, I closed my barn door. That's it. If that's a crime, you might as well arrest half the county." Her voice was calm, but there was a fire in it, the kind that made me fall in love with her 10 years ago. Buzzcut raised an eyebrow, clearly trying not to smile. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, "can you clarify what law was broken here?" Karen's face reddened, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. It's disorderly conduct," she stammered. "And that barn is a code violation." That's when the unexpected happened. A third vehicle rolled up, a black SUV with tinted windows, its engine purring like a panther. The neighborhood went dead silent, even the crickets holding their breath. The door opened, and out stepped a man in a sheriff's uniform, but this wasn't just any deputy. His badge gleamed under the streetlights, and the stars on his shoulder told me he was someone important. The deputies snapped to attention, their hands rising in crisp salutes. "Sheriff Coleman," Mustache Guy said, his voice tight with respect. Karen's smug grin vanished. Her eyes darted from the sheriff to Lena, then back again, like she was trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. Sheriff Coleman, tall and broad-shouldered, with gray hair and a face carved from years of hard decisions, walked toward us. His boots thudded on the pavement, each step deliberate, like the tick of a clock counting down to judgment. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice deep and calm, but with an edge that made the air feel colder. Karen started to speak, but Coleman raised a hand, silencing her. He turned to Lena, and something softened in his eyes. "Lena," he said, and my heart stopped. They knew each other. Lena's lips parted, a flicker of surprise crossing her face before she masked it with a nod. "John," she said simply, her voice barely above a whisper. The neighborhood felt like it was holding its breath, the tension so thick you could taste it, like ozone before a storm. Karen's eyes widened, her hands clenching into fists. "You know her?" she sputtered, her voice cracking. Coleman ignored her, his gaze locked on Lena. "Heard you were back in town," he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Didn't expect to see you over a barn door dispute." Lena let out a soft laugh, but it was tinged with something heavier, like a memory she didn't want to touch. "Yeah, well, some things never change," she said. The deputies shifted uncomfortably, sensing the shift in the air. Karen, though, wasn't done. "Sheriff, this is outrageous," she snapped, stepping forward. "These people are breaking homeowners association rules, disturbing the peace, and you're just chatting with her. I demand action." Coleman turned to her, his eyes narrowing, and for the first time, Karen shrank back. "Ma'am," he said, his voice like gravel, "I've known Lena since we were kids. She's a decorated Marine, served 2 tours, saved lives. If she's closing her barn door, I'm inclined to think it's for a good reason." The words hit like a thunderclap. Karen's face went white, her mouth frozen open. The deputies lowered their heads, almost in reverence. I felt my chest tighten, pride and pain mixing like whiskey and regret. Lena never talked about her time in the Marines, not to me, not to anyone. The scars on her hands, the way she sometimes woke up gasping in the middle of the night, she carried it all in silence. And now, here was this man, this sheriff, laying it bare in front of the whole damn neighborhood. Karen tried to recover, her voice trembling. "That doesn't excuse." But Coleman cut her off. "Ma'am, you called us out here over a barn door. You wasted county resources, tied up my deputies, and frankly, embarrassed yourself. I suggest you go home, take a deep breath, and think about what really matters." His words were quiet but final, like the closing of a coffin lid. Karen stood there, her face a mask of humiliation, the fight draining out of her like air from a punctured tire. She turned and shuffled back to her house, her heels clicking faintly on the pavement, the sound fading into the night. The deputies tipped their hats to Lena, then to Coleman, and climbed back into their cruiser. The SUV's engine rumbled to life, and Coleman gave Lena one last nod. "Stay out of trouble," he said, a hint of a grin breaking through. Lena smirked. "No promises." As the vehicles pulled away, the neighborhood exhaled. Lena leaned against the barn, her shoulders sagging, the weight of the moment settling on her. I walked over, slipping an arm around her waist. "You okay?" I asked, my voice soft. She sighed, long and heavy, the kind of sigh that carried years of battles fought and won. "Yeah," she said, her eyes on the stars. "Just tired of people like her thinking they can control everyone else." We stood there, the cricket starting up again, the air smelling of earth and freedom. Karen's house was dark now, her windows shut tight, her reign of petty tyranny cracked like cheap glass. Lena's hand found mine, her grip strong, and I knew we'd keep fighting, not just for our barn or our garden, but for the right to live on our terms. In Willow Creek, justice wasn't always loud, but tonight, it felt like a victory song, echoing in the quiet.